And welcome back. Founded in Israel with offices in New York City, Todos Medical engineers life-saving diagnostic solutions for the early detection of a variety of cancers. Recently, they announced it received a notice of allowance from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for a trademark covering the company's protease inhibitor oral antiviral drug candidate known as Tolovir. And joining us to share a little bit more details is the CEO of Todos Medical Ltd., Gerald Commissiong. And Gerald, good to have you.
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So for people not so familiar with Tolovir, give us a little insight as to what Tolovir is all about.
Sure. Tolovir is really the product of around 20 years of research by my colleagues at NLC Pharma in Israel. It is a plant extract that has been tested, and only a small percentage of the plants in this category have this molecule in them that is a 3CL protease inhibitor. And so our special sauce is we have an assay to figure out which lots of the plant root in question actually have this protease inhibitor. And what the protease inhibitor does is it stops the protease. It inhibits the protease, the 3CL protease. The 3CL protease is what coronaviruses use to cut themselves in half after they've made replications and allow them to exit the cell to go infect other cells. And so what protease inhibitors do is they stop the protease from causing the virus to divide, and they also stop the protease from allowing the any newly formed viruses to leave the cell. And so taken together, protease inhibitors really slow the replication of the virus, and they also slow the ability of the virus to go and infect other adjacent cells nearby.
Yeah. And so when we talk about really research and really investment, a lot of time has been put into the vaccine. And I know you'll make a case right now that there needs to be more investment, particularly when it comes to the antivirals.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's very clear, the vaccines provide tremendous benefit. They've done an extremely good job in terms of, getting society open back up. With that being said, the new data that's coming out, makes it very clear they don't last forever. And for those people who have compromised immune systems, whether that's because of age, whether that's because they have some underlying health conditions, or some other reason that may not be immediately known, because a lot of people only find out they have underlying health conditions when something happens to them, and that something could be COVID-19 or COVID-19 vaccine. Because that protection doesn't last forever and it wears off, there does need to be something to support, the benefit of those vaccines. So for example, we've been hearing now that the Pfizer vaccine starts to lose its effectiveness starting at 4 months in certain people, and it becomes less and less effective to protect against infection over time. And recently, the FDA authorized booster shots to try and bring that level of protection back up. Well, realistically, you can't have booster shots every 4 months. And we don't even know, if you do give booster shots every 4 months, whether that will improve the immune levels to a point where you will actually have protection against infection versus protection against hospitalization and death. And so protease inhibitors are now being studied to help bolster protection against infection. They're also being studied once you are infected to reduce the severity of that infection so that the infection lasts a shorter period of time, or it doesn't get so severe to go to the hospital. And if you are in the hospital because you've had significant triggering of your immune system, or maybe the virus is replicating uncontrollably because you have an immune problem, protease inhibitors are used to really slow that spread down at that stage of the game as well. So really all along the chain, from prophylactic to late stage therapeutic, protease inhibitors have a history of being able to help diseases such as hepatitis, such as HIV. They've made those diseases manageable so people can live with them because they reduce the viral load. And here with COVID, we're taking a similar approach, but this is more of an acute condition. And so if you can really reduce, the replication over that short period of time, you lessen the ability of the virus to cause side effects and trigger cytokine storm, you lessen the likelihood of long COVID. So there are just a tremendous number of potential benefits with antivirals.
Yeah. So what does it mean for you to be able to get this trademark for Tolovir?
Well, for us, it's critical because we have to make a distinction between a couple of products that we have. We have Tolovir, which is currently in clinical trials in Israel, and we're preparing for clinical trials in India and clinical trials in the US as really a kind of a pharmaceutical grade product that's going to be going after claims as a botanical drug. However, we do have a dietary supplement version that is lower dose, that is been authorized by the FDA for immune support, and also has been granted the claim that it is a 3CL protease inhibitor and an immune support function compound. And we call that Tolovid. So for us, Tolovir, the pharmaceutical, we want to make sure that people understand when we talk about Tolovir and all the benefits, that that's limited to the pharmaceutical side. And we can create that distinction with Tolovid, which is kind of a mass market product. We recently got approval to launch that on Amazon. We're not making any claims about its utility in COVID-19. However, it is an immune support product. And so that distinction now being granted by the USPTO is important as we market these two products with their separate and distinct claims.
Yeah. Can you share with us a little bit more about some of the work that you're doing? I know that some things include developing blood tests for early detection of cancer as well as Alzheimer's disease.
That's right. That's right. So the company, before COVID was around, we were very focused on diagnostics and cancer and Alzheimer's, and we're continuing there. So we have a blood test that we acquired through the acquisition of a company called Provista Diagnostics. It's called Videssa. It's been validated, has been on the market previously in the US to help women with dense breasts who have inconclusive mammograms when they typically go to their mammogram, their semi-annual mammogram. This will allow them to take a blood test instead of taking additional imaging and potentially a biopsy. A blood test would tell them, yes, no, we think that it's likely you have cancer, and so you need to go to these additional tests, or no, you really don't have cancer. The imaging just wasn't that successful for you because of your physiology, not because of, what's going on inside of you. And this blood test will, improve the accuracy of mammograms so that women with dense breasts, can get answers faster and go about living their lives. It reduces biopsy needed by about 45% based on our data.
Got a lot happening. So for people who want to stay connected and find out a little bit more about what you're doing, how do they go about doing that?
You can go to our website, www.todosmedical.com. We talk there about our neutralizing antibody tests, CPAS that we run, all of our PCR testing that we're doing at Provista, as well as our innovative testing with Videssa for breast cancer, Limpro for Alzheimer's, and our overall AI cancer platform, TBIA. And then obviously, our protease inhibitor programs, both on the testing side with what we call Tolo Test, the supplement side with Tolovid, and the pharmaceutical grade with Tolovir.
Gerald, a lot going on. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for sharing with us here on Open.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Now, if you want more information, we encourage you to follow them on Twitter and Facebook at Todos Medical. Well, we've got more show. Don't go anywhere. Open continues coming up in a few.